Okay, people of God, this is a different video because this is kind of lines up with kind of the work that I do in the social service field for the past 15 years, and I'm glad that this got national attention. I'm glad that I'm not glad what happened to this young man, to the mom, or whatever, but I'm gonna give you my take on some of these things because uh, through experience, it's not what the parent is always trying to portray. It's not what the school is always trying to portray as well. Because there's responsibility on both sides. And there's a lack of accountability on both sides. Um, when I look through the article, you may see the video. I posted an article before, but I encourage you to definitely look at it, and you'll see some of the statements and everything that's being made. There's a couple of things, because I deal with, families. I've dealt with families before, and it's the same, you know, excuse after excuse after excuse. And it's unfortunate because the child suffers in the middle of it. Should schools be passing kids when they don't complete, or master the level of education or master that curriculum that's being taught to them? Should schools pass them on? Absolutely not. I got held back in the first grade, because I did not catch on to the concepts, the math, and different things of that nature. And I'm grateful that I did, because my parents made that decision. They were part of that school's decision. They were very integral in finding out, progress reports, getting report cards, teacher conference meetings, all of that stuff. My parents were very involved and engaged. My father, he worked full time, so he was not as accessible as my mom was. But when it came down to having those parent teacher conference meetings, yes, it was an inconvenience, but they showed up. And as a result, they saw what my grades were. They knew about my behavior in school, everything. They were actively involved. And just because you're a single parent does not mean you can't be involved either. And I'm gonna, hit on certain things, because when a mom, like when you look at the article, she works 3 jobs. Well, if you work in 3 jobs, how in the world are you going to get notified when your child is not doing something? Okay. And I give this for an example, because schools send letters home. They would now, if this school didn't do any of that, and they absolutely did nothing and neglected that, then yes, every last person on that staff, they need to be looking for different jobs, including the principal, because that's ridiculous. However, reason why I say there's accountability on both sides. However, as a parent, you cannot assume that your teenage child is doing what they're supposed to be doing. You have to talk with them. Look at what they've been doing. Look at what they've been doing. When there's no way in the world a child can miss 272 days. That is a whole school year. Okay, fail 22 classes and you not have an inkling of a clue about it. See, another part of this responsibility falls on that young man, because he knows he's not going to school. He knows he's not going to school on time. He knows he's missing, he's skipping. He knows these things. And so now all of a sudden, when that gaveling drops, now everybody acts surprised. Everybody acts surprised, like, oh, we didn't know this. Oh, we didn't know that. That young man knew good and well he was failing them classes. He knew good and well that he was not attending that school like he should have been. Okay. And so when you see stories like this, and I see this because I see this stuff, I call it this. I say it's like this. It's the same behaviors, just different bodies are doing it. The same behaviors, just different bodies and people are doing it. Because I know single parents, they're on it. They are on their child. They get on them, and the school calls them. I'll be up there in a minute, and I know not everybody has that liberty to do that because parents have to work. Which brings me to another point. Where's the father at? See, all of this stuff that's going on, especially with, amongst, black people, African Americans, whatever you want to say, there's a lack of accountability, lack of fathers being involved. And as a result, these kids are suffering from it. So when you see things like this happening. You cannot just go off of the emotional crying and sobbing and stuff of the mom and everything like that. And the schools, they give that little corporate response. Oh, we find it that every child's education is important. We're going to do our very best to go. Yeah, they're going to give a corporate response because they're trying to cover themselves. But again, both parties are at fault. And even that teenage boy is at fault. And people want to say, well, he's just a kid. No, when you 14, 15, 16 years, you know exactly what you're doing. You know exactly what you're doing. Many of us grew up and we seen in new teenagers that was in our age group in high school that we saw them like they just cutting class, they getting high and everything. And then all of a sudden when it was time to walk with your class and they weren't there, you heard the excuses that came out their mouth. Man, Mr. Smith gave me an F. Now I can't even graduate. Man, I should go and smash. I should just do this. No. No accountability. You got that F. You got that grade. You knew good and well it was all fun and cool for the freshman year, sophomore year, junior year. Everybody's laughing down. You doing all the partying, you smoking, you going over this, and you going to the prom, you doing all that stuff. All that stuff going along. You just enjoyed it. We knew that our peers was just enjoying the high school life. But then at the end, it caught up with them. And then the parents want to come up there, fuss at the school. How come nobody called me? Look, parents, you know good and well when your child needs new clothes. You know good and well when your child needs to be at work. You know good and well everything else. You know it's their social media. You know everything else. But all of a sudden, when it comes to the school, you have no clue. I use this for example. Because I've seen where parents, the school year be going on for classes be in session for about 3 months. All of a sudden, the child doesn't show up for school. So the school got to reach out to the parents. School got to, send somebody out to the house, knock on the door. Hey, I just want to do a wellness check or whatever. And put the thing on the door. If the parents don't answer the door, you put a little notification on the door. At one time, I went to a home. It was a while back. And went to the home. The mailbox was filled with letters. And one of the first letters I saw was from the school. So I had to leave a notification on the door. Hey, if you don't, respond to this, whatever, your child missed this many days stuff. We got to call, CPS, all that other stuff. And so about 3-4 weeks later after that, my parent calls the school. Are y'all in session? This is we 3 months into the school year, 3 months into this year now. Are y'all in session? Yes, man. We've been in session. We've been having classes. Oh, y'all got classes Monday through Friday? Y'all got school Monday through Friday? Yes, ma'am. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. Oh, they gonna be in school tomorrow. And so this parent completely, you have children that wake up in the morning, are with you all day long, and you didn't think that they needed to be in school during a weekday. See, this is some kind of nonsense that some of these parents try to play. Some of these parents try to play the system, or they will do things to try to find a loophole and act like, well, nobody called me. Well, no, it's not that nobody called you. It's that you got the school's number blocked on your phone because your child's behavior. You know your child's behavior. You know the school got to deal with them. You know that school can't handle that child, but you don't want them calling you all the time, so you block their number. So that's why they can't call you. And that's when your voicemail system is so filled, nobody can leave a message. But then you want to play the victim and say, well, nobody tried to reach out. I'm not just talking about this particular incident. But I'm giving examples that kind of show that create a bigger picture of what's really going on in these inner city schools, because these schools got to put up with a lot of nonsense from these parents not showing up to the parent teacher conferences, not showing up to anything. So you mean to tell me your son in this article went through school for all 4 years, and you didn't see one report card, you didn't see one progress report, you didn't think that I need to call the school to see how my child is doing. So you never made a phone call to the school to find out how your child was doing when they was a freshman, when they was a sophomore. You just assumed that everything was okay, that they was doing what they're supposed to do. He was doing what he was supposed to be doing. See, that's what I'm talking about, this negligence on the side of the parent. Negligence and a lack of accountability. And now what you have is this black youth. Even if you look at the video clip of the news story, he's playing video games, okay? He's sitting there talking about, why is this happening? What am I going to do? What you going to do is you're going to go back and complete them classes. Because the ones that you were taking, you were flunking them. So it's not just the school. And this is what gets me. Is that these parents, some of these parents are, where's the mentors? Where's this? Where's that? Well, ma'am, sir, when they had those opportunities available, you didn't want to get your child involved in them. It was more of an inconvenience. You didn't want to bring them to the school. You didn't want them staying after. You was more concerned about their sports. You was more concerned about them being home so they can watch their younger brother and sister. So all these the school has those resources. But the problem is that a lot of parents don't utilize them. I've seen parents, when you set up meetings with them, you set up, not medical, but mental health meetings with stuff with them. Them parents will not show up. 3 or 4 times in a year you set up, in a semester you set up a meeting with them. They will not show up. But when it's time for the holidays to come around and it's time for them to the school to give out gifts, or it's time for pantries, all of a sudden you see them parents right there. You see the same ones that will not show up for the meetings. You see them show up when it's time for something to be given to them. And that's why I'll say that these kids suffer. And that's why when things like this pop up, you can't just give a knee-jerk reaction and just think that, the school is messed up, the school system messed up. Now, I will say this about the school system, certain school systems. This is what's happening across the nation. This is what's happening across America. Schools are passing kids, and they know good and well them kids that miss 50 days of school, 30. I'm talking about first and second graders. You ain't got to deal with the high school because it's bad in elementary school and in middle school. And they still passing these kids knowing that these kids go to the 5th grade and they still reading at a 2nd grade reading level. So as these kids continue to get promoted and pass, you building up a false sense of confidence in this child because you making it seem like to them, and you're lying to them, making them think that I mastered the skill. I know how to do my work. I get to go on along with my peers because that's all they thinking. I get to pass. I get to go along with their peers and stuff. And some people think that, well, it's going to make them feel bad if they fail and they see their peers going on. Oh, well, they see their peers going on because their peers did what they were supposed to do. You don't award a kid or a teenager to the next grade level when they've done absolutely nothing to earn it. And the reason why is they come to school and they won't do nothing but cause problems. These are the ones you got to suspend. These are the ones you try to reach out to the parents to find out what's going on at home, what's happening and everything. These are the ones you reach out to. And then all of a sudden they missing 30, 50, 60 days of the school year, three total months for the entire school year. They've been absent. They ain't showing up virtually. But then you're going to go ahead and pass them. So what's the use of them coming to school then if they're going to get passed anyway? What's the use of them sitting in the classroom if you're going to pass them anyway? Well, we're going to set up summer school. Well, they ain't attended the regular school year. What makes you think they're going to go to summer school? See, this is the thing of the school system is that we've gotten in America, everything has become so emotionally sensitive. You don't want people to feel bad. You don't want somebody to feel this way. That's what they're doing with the Mr. Potato Head. Because a small group of people, it's offensive to call him Mr. Potato Head. We want him to be genderless. This toy has been on the market for 70 years. And ain't nobody ever had a problem with it. The Mr. Potato Head has no private parts. Mr. Potato Head. I don't care if you take the name off of it, Hasbro, all you want to. He's still Mr. Potato Head. We've been calling Mr. Potato Head, Mrs. Potato Head for 70 years. So this is what we're seeing, this culture, and it is emotionally, driven, this super sensitive, hypersensitive, nonsense that's going on. And what you're doing is you're emasculating these little boys. You're pampering them and everything. And a lot of times, these schools and stuff being, led by, people that want to pamper and just coddle these kids. And you ain't doing nothing but setting them up to continue the crime rate in the city. Because you keep passing these kids on, eventually they're going to get to high school. And everybody in the class know that they don't know how to do the work because they don't do the work when they're in the classroom. They just sit there, cause problems. Teacher got to use majority of his or her time to address this child, to address this teenager. They can't get in contact with the parents. They do a home visit. Nobody wants to answer the door, even though that the blinds are open. Nobody wants to answer the door, even though the person from the school, the representative from the school or the district can hear the TV through the door. Nobody wants to answer the door. Then all of a sudden, when the bottom falls out, you want to blame the school and say it's the school system. Nonsense. It's the parent system. It's the parents that's doing this stuff. Okay? Now, certain school systems, when they do stuff and you keep passing these kids on, this is the result right here. This is the result. That boy he don't know anything on a high school level. That's why he failed 22 classes. And the 3 classes he got the reports on, he still failed them. You know why? Because in middle school, he probably wasn't doing too well. Elementary school probably had some issues. But you know what? You keep passing them. You kept passing them. You kept passing them. And now you're in high school, and that's when when the reality sets in. So yes, the school system has failed, and if the school, did not send somebody out to the home, if the school did not send notices home and everything like that, and it's been discovered that that's happened, then yeah, they need to be held accountable. That school needs to be closed down, or something needs to happen. But if you close that school down, that means you got to take that population of kids and add them to another school, which creates even bigger issues, because now that creates bigger classrooms, and you already got teachers being scarce in certain communities in certain cities, and it creates bigger problems. And you're going to tell the teachers just to pass them on to another grade level. Now you're going to pass that child on to another grade level, and it's going to require you to have to get more resources and more people's hands involved in that child's life, because that child can't do the work in the next grade level. Then you got to alter their work. You got somebody in the 9th grade, you got to give them 5th grade math work. You got to alter the whole plan to educate them, because they didn't master the skills when they was in the 5th grade. They didn't master the skills when they was in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. But you passed them on anyway. So this is what's crippling, the school system, is politicians that are sitting up here, and this is a Democratic ran city, politicians that are sitting up here always, trying to, say, when you have a child, they use these little, again, super hypersensitive terms. Just think of a child and the hurt and the pain it causes a child. They try to create this picture, but yet it's these children, these teenagers out here killing grown adults because they don't know how to, they can't function in school because they don't know how to do the schoolwork, because everybody just patting them on the back and just talking about, oh, their family is going through so much. Their family has a lot of struggles and everything. There's a lot of needs and everything. Oh, they play athletes. They play sports pretty well. So we're going to pass them on. And yet you creating a menace to society. You are creating a menace to society. So when this mom gets on here and talks about she works 3 jobs, my first thing is, well, ma'am, how in the world do you have time to even know what your child looks like? Because through working 3 jobs, that is a lot. And hey, look here, I'm not, condemning somebody that got to work 2 jobs and stuff. They're a single parent, everything, got 3 children. Listen, I know that's going to be tough. That's going to be a strain. But you can't just always put the finger at the school and say, well, because you work 3 or 4 jobs and stuff like that. Because how in the world is the school going to get in contact with you? Even if they set up appointments, how you going to keep them? How you going to keep them? Because you miss one of them jobs, that means a bill is not going to get paid. So when people bring stuff like this, and I can give you countless stories of, just what I've seen and everything. I've seen, parents talk about how, You know, the child's father is locked up and everything, and he gets out, and you bring him back into the home, and that just disrupts the whole environment. That the parents ain't putting their kids to bed on time, and you let them stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning, and then they got to get up and go to school at 5 o'clock. They got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go to school. Of course, that kid is not going to function well. And so when I see a parent talking about, he's a good kid, he didn't deserve that. No, he earned that. What do you mean he didn't deserve it? See, that the 1 minute you want to get upset with the school, pass it, but now you want to say he didn't deserve that. So I guess what she was saying, just to be fair, is that he didn't deserve to be passed on, and then all of a sudden the bottom fall out. But again, people, it comes down to accountability. What kind of conversation are you having with your child when you find out they only passed 3 classes and failed 22 of them? What kind of where's the accountability at? When a person misses and is tardy 272 days, that's a whole year of school, and then 3 or 4 months after that. But then it's the school's fault. That young man needs to be held accountable. Yes, you just gonna have to start over then if you want to get but they got other programs out there. Atterbury Job Corps, different, Job Corps places are out there where a person, can go get their GED, high school diploma, learn a trade. They just have to be away from home for a little bit. Now, I've dealt with families that had, to try to send their child, to Atterbury Job Corps. One family I dealt with, I was like, look here, young man, there's nothing going on for you in the city. Okay, you're having a tough time finding a job. You didn't get your high school diploma. Let's look at going to Job Corps, where you can get out of the city and kind of learn how to have your own independence. Become an independent young man. It's a good program. Get your high school diploma, GED, learn a trade, learn a skill, and you can be on your way. And they will also help pay for you to you get your own apartment. They'll help you, and you get paid while you're down at this program. I went through the whole ordeal with this young man, and he was like, you know what? Hey, yes, but his mother sat up there and said, no, he's not going nowhere. I need him here with me. I don't want my baby leaving. I said, all right, man, if you going to pull that mess, and then when your young man gets out here in these streets because he can't get a job, I don't want to hear nothing, no crying. Nobody ever helped him. See, this is the thing people always want to do. Where's all the resources? We need more people in the community. We need more. No, you had resources. People tried to reach out to you, but you pushed their hands away. And so as a result, now you want to go to the news media and get on camera and everything and sob and cry about all the stuff that could have happened, but they won't tell you the full details. They won't tell you the full stories. They won't tell you all the interventions that took place and how they refused it. So I always find it something that, disciplining some of these young men, these young black males, the mothers always come to their defense as if they never did anything wrong, that these kids or these teenagers never did anything wrong. But throughout the course of their life, you see a consistent, repeated pattern of behavior that was never corrected. And now when they get to that age in their life, in their young teenage years, where they're being held accountable for their decisions that they made, the moms, don't even want to hear it. They just want to come to their defense and blame everybody else, play the victim, because they want to avoid the accountability. I'm telling you, it's the same song and dance every time. Because of school, they document the times that they reached out to parents. They document the times that they tried to contact them and they did home visits. They document the times that the parents said, hey, I will be here at the meeting, or my child will be in school. They'll be in class tomorrow or whatever. They document stuff like that. And so when these parents, and you've seen the last video that I did with the text messages and everything, that the parent try to blame the school and stuff. So when these schools finally have that one final meeting with the parent can't refute the facts. They can't argue it because it's been documented, but all they can do is blame somebody or blame when the school person said this to them that offended them and everything. They try to reach and grab for any lifeline that they can to try to validate what they're feeling. And I'm going to tell you something right now. excuse me. These, especially on this report, that just took place. This report in Baltimore, or whatever. It is not the school's responsibility to come to your house, wake your child up, and make sure they get to school on time. It is not the school's responsibility to make sure that your child doesn't miss any days of school. That is your responsibility as a parent, and that is that child or that teenager's responsibility to make sure that they remain in class, each and every class. See, when you're in high school, you got several classes. You got 7, periods that you got to go through. You're supposed to report to each of those periods. How in the world do you miss 272 days of school, including tardies and being late to school? I've seen it to where parents school will start 8 o'clock in the morning. The parent will bring their child to school at 11 o'clock in the morning, and school ends at 3. They only get 4 hours worth of school. So they done missed all these other assignments during the day. And so that's what I'm talking about, people. The inconsistency of some of these parents, but they want to get on TV. And I'm not just saying just with this mom, because her case is different. Everybody's case is different. But they want to get on camera. They want to get on the news, have their little highlight reel on the news, and try to play the victim. All right. And the reason why on this particular report, the school probably did not say anything about why they passed that child is because that's what's been happening across the nation. It is common. Okay. It is common. The whole no child left behind thing. It is common. So why do they need to comment on it when it's been going on across the country? This is what your politicians, this is what you wanted your politicians to vote for. Just like they got these, now like bringing transgenders and all this other stuff, coming in. These politicians, these political figures are bringing this stuff in. And now the backlash is these transgender males are dominating these female sports. And now everybody wants to cry and sigh about it. Well, you was all for, oh yes, the homosexuals, the transgenders, they need rights too. They shouldn't be discriminated against. And now you see how it is coming up to bite you now. Because you once stood for it. The world stood for it. Now all of a sudden they same people that's out there in the world that was promoting this stuff. Now all of a sudden they crying about it because it's having an impact on their child. Because their daughter can't get scholarships, because their daughter can't win anything in the athletic arena because the transgenders are dominating them. Beat them up. I mean, I seen one man, this guy was in college, and he was a 45-year-old former Army vet that wanted to go back to school and play basketball at a college. I think it was a junior college or something like that. So this dude is like 6'7", 6'9" on a girls' basketball team because he decided to, at 40-something years old, identify as a woman. So he gets on the court and he's dominating these girls. He's dominating. So, but because the people of the world want to keep promoting this stuff, and it's okay, they should be able to do this, they should be able to do that. Now, when it has an impact on their little girls, now all of a sudden they crying about it, and that's what's happening now. Is that these young people go throughout their high school, years, cutting classes and everything like that, because a lot of times they do this stuff because they know their mother gonna come up to the school and show out. They know their mother's gonna come up to the school and defend it. They know their mother's gonna defend them every square inch of the way. Look, single mothers, you know your child, and when your child is a teenager, and especially they don't even have the Holy Spirit, they are going to do things that's going to be uncharacteristic of what they do at home. And sometimes they're doing stuff that they've been doing at home, and you know that, but you want to go to the school and act like you're surprised by their behavior. And they've been having the same behavior issues all throughout elementary school, middle school, and high school. And I shared, on the previous video where I had to work with a young man who was having behavior problems in elementary school. We found out where his father was. The mother gave us permission to contact his father. And the father was like, look, I've been trying to get in my son's life, but me and his mom just ain't seeing eye to eye. We ain't getting along, but now we're going to try to work this thing out because we want our son to do well. When that father came back into that boy's life, when he was allowed to, let me say that very clearly, when he was allowed to, I did not have one negative report from that school for about 3 weeks, almost a whole month. The mother and father got into it. Now all of a sudden, the mother doesn't want us contacting the father no more. And within a week, the boy is now up for expulsion because his behavior started increasing again. Just inconsistency. But the mother, for some reason, just did not want to acknowledge that. And so she wanted to take it on by herself. And what she was doing, she kept finding herself coming up to the school again and again. We kept calling her like, hey, since you want to kick the father out, we're going to call you then and see how this goes. And that boy just kept a very, very smart young man. But he was just too smart for his own good. He thought he was grown and he wasn't. He was just in the 5th grade. Or 4th grade. But the mother had to keep coming up to the school again because of the choices that they make. So we cannot sit up here and constantly blame the school and say it's the educational system that's the fault. No, because it's 2 parts to it. It's just like in the marriage. It's a husband and a wife. There's 2 parts to this. That are key figures in bringing this child up in the education system. It's the school and it's the parents. And if them 2 don't come together, then that child is going to fall through the cracks. And it's not just the school's fault, it's the parents' fault as well, because the parents are responsible to make sure that that does not happen. The school is responsible to make sure that that does not happen from an educational standpoint, but they cannot educate your child if your child is not there. Parents, the other portion that is missing, the other component that's missing is this, that may not be reported, but a lot of this stuff has to deal with money. I'm telling you right now, the way residential, and I may do a video on residential treatment facilities because I used to be a program manager over one, and I worked at one. There's some key things. If you got a child or you got a nephew or a relative, or you know somebody who has a person in a treatment facility, there's some things that you need to know in order for them to successfully complete that program or to get out of there by a court order. Okay, but there's money involved in it. See, these schools, I mean, they get money for each heads each head that they have in those schools. Every student that they have in that school, they get money for it. And so in order for this is what, again, with the politicians and government and everything, they put these standards out there, and these schools got to meet these standards. If not, then that school gets an F grade. That school gets lack of funding and everything. So they have to meet certain criteria. They have to have certain people pass. They have to have certain graduation rates. They have to have, all these different, the testings and everything done and showing that they're, really educating these kids. And so they do, curb the numbers a little bit. They lie about the numbers and lie about the data. They lie about the numbers, lie about the data, lie about how many people have been suspended, how many reports of bullying have been taking place. They'll lie about that stuff because they're under the gun. They're under pressure because of the government, because they need their funding. And so, yes, they will pass kids on because the government knows if you don't hit this mark, your funding is going to be impacted by it. Lack of funding, lack of resources, lack of supplies for the school. That's how you get a lot of these, schools with low funding. But again, the schools can do the job if the government allows them to do the job, which means if they allow them to fail them and hold these kids back when they're messing up. So it's a numbers game. It's money involved in it. And when money is involved in it, you better believe there's going to be selfish ambitions and selfish interests involved, and they're not going to care fully for those students in a way that they should. And so that's another thing that's missing. So the way that the government has done things and politicians have done things, especially, different leaders, senators, governors, and mayors, are pushing for things to take place in these schools because they're not in those schools. They don't visit those schools. They don't see what's going on in these inner city schools. They don't see the stuff that's happening, but yet they use it as a way to get more votes by making generalized campaign promises. And they get in and then nothing changes. And so they do stuff like this all the time. They know how to say the political jargon. They know how to make those campaign promises and everything. Make it sound like they're going to be the best superintendent. Make it sound like this and this and that. But yet all the time while they're in office, the same thing continues to happen over and over and over again. And it's not until a case comes up like this, now all of a sudden they want to try to drop the hammer on everybody involved, when in fact they knew this stuff was going on and they did nothing about it. They knew that that school was in that condition the way that it was, why, you know, that particular superintendent was in office, because that boy was a freshman when she was in office, when she was in her position. And then that school just don't, the schools that are performing poorly don't just perform poorly overnight. There is a gradual there's a gradual steps that they take to get to that point. And you can see where they're falling off. And so, you know, when you grew up in certain schools, you grew up in certain cities, you knew, I ain't going to that school. That school is in the hood. That school is like this. That school is like that and stuff. And it didn't get like that overnight, but you can see where it was headed. You can see where it was headed. Okay, you can identify that. You lived in the community. You can identify which school was good, which school wasn't. That's why a lot of these parents, they want to sit up here and complain. And, you know, that's why I get on all these, you know, nonsense, foolish, you know, black folks that want to talk about, you know, the white man this, the white man that. But yet you steady sending your kids to these predominantly white schools because you know they're going to get the best educational opportunities that possible. That's what all the athletes do. That's what all the politicians do. They don't send these kids into the inner city schools. They're not pouring their money into inner city schools. They're sending those kids to suburb schools, to schools in good townships and everything, schools ran by, you know, white principals, assistant principals, and, you know, predominantly white. They send them there because they're getting the most education. Not only that, but they have a higher level of accountability than these inner city schools do. Some of the inner city schools. And so you see a lot of the inner city schools, there are some, they have great teachers, they have great principals, they have great vice principals, they have some people that are really invested in seeing that these young people can succeed. They don't get the lights, camera, and the action, everything because of where they're located at, but they're still doing the same effective work. The difference is lack of parental accountability. That's the difference. And not only that, but certain schools allow certain behaviors that others will not tolerate. You got to perform or you got to go. And that's what the standard is. It has to, the standards of these schools have got to change. It can't be because they were black or because they were white, they was brought up in a rough area, in a rough neighborhood. Okay, accountability. You still have to have structure and accountability to show them, look here, you may act like that in the streets. You may act like that at your home, cussing out your family, cussing out people and disrespecting adults in your neighborhood. So that may fly out there. But when you're in these four walls, we're not tolerating that. And you will get put out of this school. You have to have standards. You have to, I understand giving grace and everything and coaching and restoring people, but you have to maintain standards, and certain things should not be broken. Certain things, certain lines should not be crossed. And these parents need to be held just as a high level of accountability as these young people are, because the parents are responsible for getting their kids to school. All right. The Bible is very clear. A child left unattended will bring his mother much shame. That's exactly what's happening on this particular report. That's exactly what's happening. Now it's bringing shame to the mother. Now she's making national news and stuff because her child missed 227 days and was tardy, kind of a mixture of both, and also failed all of his classes except for 3 in 4 years. If my memory serves correct. 3 classes he failed. Okay, 20-something classes that he failed. 3 of them that he may have passed or barely passed. But it's the school's fault. You know, no, you're not gonna put that all on the school. And parents, how dare any parent try to blame the school when your child is missing that many days of school, as if the school wasn't open on those days, so that's the reason why that child got counted absent or tardy or late. It's ridiculous, people. And so I just want to share that because this is something that I've been, seeing over the course of years. I've mentored young people, years ago, was a professional mentor. And I remember going to one home and the mother said, he ain't going to school today. I'm there to pick the boy up because he didn't get on a school bus. So I'm there to pick him up, make sure he gets to school so he can, and he was already struggling, developmentally. But I go there because mom, her act wasn't together. She said, he ain't coming to school today, Mr. Williams. He ain't going today. I'm just like, man, whatever you got going on, why are you forbidding this child from going to school, your son from going to school? Then you going to get mad and say things like, where's the mentors? Where's the resources? Nobody ever helped me. They're going to do that, all that sobbing and crying and stuff, talking about ain't nobody ever helped them. Interview the school. Interview some of the people that reached out. Because I'm telling you, they got it documented. And that's when the rubber gonna hit the road. Like, no, we reached out to this mother. We reached out to this family. They didn't return our phone calls. They moved locations without even telling the school. And that's what a lot of these parents do. They will up and move and not even tell the school the new address or the new phone number. Because a lot of these parents, they get a new cell phone number like a new day of the week almost. It's just constantly. The little contract phones that they got to pay for, the data phones that they got to pay for, whatever. They just get phones like it's nothing. Like you take your next breath, they got a new phone number, but they never tell the school. And so when the school tries to reach out to them, which could have been the case in this one, when the school tries to reach out to them, they can't. They have no way of contacting them. And since the child is not showing up to school, like this young man, for example, the school has no way of reaching anybody. Then all of a sudden the parent, because they get so mad at the school, they tell the school, don't contact this person on the emergency contact list. Take them off, because now there's turmoil in the family. Take this person off the emergency contact list. Take his uncle off. Take his father off. Take his grandparents off, because I'm into it with them. So now the school has absolutely nobody to reach, and they can't find the phone number or find the address to mail letters to, because sometimes when they mail these letters off about the attendance that the child is displaying, the letter comes back because there's no address, because nobody lives there anymore. Even when they send somebody out to the home, the address that the school has in the system is not the same, because the parent up and left. Even with the virtual learning thing, parents will up and leave the location and not even tell the school, but then get mad when their child is not doing well and the school hasn't reached out to them. And the reason why they haven't, because they don't have updated contact information. See, these parents know what they're doing. They know the loopholes that they're taking. They know good and well they need to contact the schools. They know good and well they need to let the school know, hey, my son or daughter is not going to be here on this day. They know good and well if your child is out for 3 days and they sick, your child is out for 3 days and they sick, you need to have a doctor's note or something. Why are they out for a whole week, and the school reach out to you and stuff? You just bring them to school like it's nothing. And the school reach out to you, hey, what happened? What? Oh, they were sick. They were sick for 5 days? Yeah. You're not going to provide them a doctor's excuse or nothing like that? They were sick for 5 days and just left them at home, huh? So that's the kind of stuff. People play games. They do this stuff and they try to find a loophole. And when things don't work out and their child receives a consequence, it's being held accountable, like not going to the next grade, not graduating, then all of a sudden the parents want to act like, oh my gosh, I didn't know anything about it. But when you say stuff like that, parents, you say you don't know anything about it, you just told on yourself. Because how dare you have a child in high school for 4 years and you never reached out to the school? Yes, the school supposed to reach out to you. Yes, they're supposed to send somebody. Yes, they're supposed to send a letter. But again, there's different factors that come into play. Is the address up to date? Is your phone contact information up to date? Why didn't you respond to the letters that were sent in the mail? So when you see all these, there's definitely different factors that come into play. But you can't sit up here and just put all the blame on the school. No, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Part of the blame is on the parent. Part of the blame is on that young person. Part of the blame is on the school. If the school did not follow certain procedures, if they don't have the documentation of when them letters were sent out, or when a person went to their home to visit their home to do a wellness check, if they don't have that documentation, they didn't do that, then yes, that school is at fault. That school is at a greater fault, because that is what is required by their state that they are in. They have certain things that they must follow through, and that's what that school lists itself. So, but the mother and that son, and that's not just them, but others are, around the nation. You're just as at fault as the school is. Because parents, sometimes, parents are putting that mighty dollar in front of their child's education, because you just want your child to dress the nicest, to have the game councils and everything, and you're working all those jobs so you can have a nice little ride and maintain your house or your apartment wherever you live. But you got to have the nicest Lexus, you got to have the BMW. Yeah, you working 2 or 3 jobs. You don't need to work 3 jobs. You can make it with the 2, or you can make it with the 1 job you got, but you want that extra material gain. You want the materials. You want to be materialistic. But yet, when they look at your social media, Facebook page, and they see you flossing, they see you with your nails all done, they see you going to the salon, they see you going out to eat with your son and your child, everything, spending all this money, but yeah, you have no idea where he is on his education or where she is in their education. And they're in high school. No clue. Now all of a sudden the rubber done hit the road. Now you want to get on the camera and cry, sob, and tear up. No. There's no way you got a high schooler that misses that many days of school and not hold your son accountable to that. He just gonna have to repeat the grade. That's not just this article, but anybody that does foolish stuff like that. You teenagers, you skipping classes, you missing school, but you don't want to tell the full truth and tell on yourself. You want your mother to run up there and your parents to run up there and fight your battles for you, knowing you has been disrespectful, knowing good and well you've been missing school. And I tell you what, when you make your bed, you're gonna have to lay in it. Too bad, so sad. God bless you. Amen.